Sinaloa, Mexico, the home state of El Chapo Guzman. It's been the center of Mexican drug production for nearly 200 years. The poppies grown here were turned into morphine during World War II. After the war, they fed the opium trade. Today, it's all about pot.
Gerardo, I'm going to start with you since you're the leader of this cartel, as you said. How did El Chapo start in the drug business?
The family of El Chapo, as many of the families of this area, were devoted to growing marijuana. And he used to go with his father to sell the marijuana to this point where drug dealers buy the product. But the father spent all the money that he made by drinking and paying prostitutes. And at the age of 15, he started his own crop.
So he got into the drug business when he was 15 years old?
15 years old, and then he managed to know the big bosses of that time.
Gerardo and the Univision investigative team went into the heart of Sinaloa in pursuit of El Chapo's trail. It was immediately clear he was watching.
He controls every movement, every movement. You go by and there's people sitting in a corner and they just look at you, go by. You see the radios. They're sitting next to a truck on the side of the road, and you see them just go like this.
He has like 200 people around him.
He has 200 people protecting him.
Protecting him.
So there is no way that you could have gone to his hometown without his knowledge and his consent.
No way.
Were you nervous at all going there?
Sometimes, yes.
I was very nervous.
To enter Badiraguato, the small town near El Chapo's hometown of La Tuna, required special help from a source whose identity we're not allowed to disclose.
How did you get the green light to go ahead and do it?
He gave us the authorization to be in the Chapo's land.
El Chapo was so aware of the team's presence that he even sent them a direct message.
He said, "You're wrong. The Chapo's land is Mexico, not that piece of the country, of the whole country."
Why? Why do you think he agreed to it?
El Chapo wanted an interview with us. So he told this woman, make all the arrangement to get the interview. And we were very close to get the interview, but at the end, he said, "I give the interview, and if you allow me to review whatever I said after the interview." And we said, "No, we haven't done that in Univision for presidents, ministers, or whatever. We are not going to do it for a drug trafficker." So,
to many in Sinaloa, El Chapo is not just a drug trafficker. He's a hero. They see him as a modern-day Robin Hood.
They like him because he came from poverty. And the myth is that he helps the poor people of the Sierra, the mountain range where he grew up. He mocks the United States, and they love that.
I mean, here's a kid who came from a very poor neighborhood in Mexico, first grade education, and he's known all over the world now. And like you said, they think that he's mocking the United States, and nobody's been able to capture him.
They caught Osama bin Laden in another continent, and he's across the border, and they can't catch him.
So while filming this, you kept on hearing people referring to him as sort of the Robin Hood who's bringing money and food to the people.
That's his reputation around it. But the only thing that they got from him is protection and some contracts for the source of the marijuana. But that's it.
Because the region where he's from is still really poor.
One of the poorest regions of Mexico, according to the Mexican government.
In his early 20s, he was in charge of the airplane operations for Mexican drug kingpin Miguel Ángel Félix Gallardo.
El Chapo Guzman was one of the figures. I mean, he certainly was what I would call a key player within the Sinaloa cartel. But I don't even think at that time he was yet the major figure. He would become that in the 90s.
After Félix Gallardo's capture in 1989, El Chapo slowly took control of the entire Sinaloa cartel.
Over the last 15 years or so, Guzman has become the head of the Sinaloa cartel.
The war between cartels hasn't stopped. The trail of blood from criminals and innocent victims keeps growing. According to the latest death toll in Mexico, over 77,000 people have died in drug-linked violence since 2006.
Particularly people that are involved not just in drug trafficking, but kidnapping, extortion, and all the other kinds of organized crime, human trafficking, that the major cartels in Mexico that are based in Mexico are involved in. El Chapo Guzman has taken over the organization, so he's certainly been engaged in a lot of murders of people and a lot of violence.
And no one is immune from El Chapo.
Well, for me personally, while I was on the border, there was a veiled threat from Chapo to chop my head off.
He'd done it before, leaving the heads of several members of his rival cartel, Los Zetas, in Nuevo Laredo, Zetas territory. He also left a written threat, signed, "Sincerely, El Chapo."
Chapo has an organization that is second to no one in terms of the power, the corruption techniques that he has.
¿Y para qué quiere las armas? ¿No sabe usar armas?
Is the most wanted drug lord in the world.
Pero eso no parece haber intimidado al Chapo.
Joaquim El Chapo Guzman Loera.
Del narcotraficante más buscado del país, el Chapo Guzman.
Il Chapo Guzman ha inventato i tunnel sotterranei tra Messico e Stati Uniti.
And Forbes magazine wants him for an interview because he's made their annual list of the world's billionaires.
超级毒枭，墨西哥头号通缉犯，美国政府为了抓到他，甚至悬赏500万美元。
The threat of Chapo is everywhere. Can you give us an example of how you felt that?
We were told that an interview we did had been recorded. And I was here in my apartment, in the safety of my own home. And Gerardo forwarded some of the recording that they got. And just to hear my voice on somebody else's tape when I didn't know, I freaked out. That was very scary to hear somebody else recording you without you knowing.
El Chapo was listening and watching, doing whatever it takes to protect the international drug empire he built, and reminding us all that he is everywhere.